Hey guys! Are you ready to test your knowledge and see if you can crush a really hard SAT grammar question? If so, stay tuned because we're going to go over one in this video. Before I get into that though, if you are able to vote, I want to encourage you to go out to the polls this coming week and make your Democratic voice heard, because when it comes to preparing for your future, it's not just your SAT score that's going to get you there. It's also expressing your Democratic voice. So make sure to get out and vote. And if you haven't already checked out the best ACT prep course ever, you can go over to SupertutorTV.com. It's a full prep course for the ACT. I've helped prep a student to a perfect score as a tutor, and I've encapsulated all of my advice to my tutoring students, to my private tutoring students in this course. So go check it out. There you go. And our SAT course is coming soon. Sign up for our mailing list at SupertutorTV.com/subscribe, or follow us on Facebook to find out when that course drops. And finally, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, because we have lots of tips here, lots of good free stuff if you're going to college soon. Hardest SAT writing and language question ever. One of them. This is actually from the October SAT. There have been lots of posts on Reddit of people who are heeing and hawing and wondering, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? So we're going to go over this question. Okay, so we have, she found that students who were required to volunteer rushed to complete their service hours in early high school. They then did significantly less regular volunteer work in the 12th grade than the service hours of those not required to volunteer. So I think most of you can see what we're comparing. We need to figure out what we're comparing, right? They did less work. So I'm going to get rid of like all of our modifiers in here to kind of help me out here. So they did less work because the in the 12th grade doesn't even come into play. They did less work than the service hours. So this makes it sound like we're comparing they to the service hours or something. And that's really awkward, okay? So that's going to be out. The next one that's really easy to get rid of is actually C, than hours worked by students. They did less work than hours. So that means they did less work than hours. It's not a parallel comparison. It's very awkward. So they then did less work than did students who were not required to volunteer. This is definitely a complete comparison, okay? But here's the problem. A lot of people also thought that D could be right too. So let's take a look at D. They did less work compared with students not required to volunteer. Now, if this had said than students required to volunteer, that might make it a harder question, because this would be really concise sounding. But I think than did students is a little bit clearer, because they did less than they did, right? I did more than you did. The did completes it and it makes it super clear, right? Makes it more clear. So there's nothing wrong with trying to create a little clarity, even if it's a little bit longer. So if you're wondering why D is wrong, because I know a lot of you probably are like, why is D wrong? D sounds more elegant. D sounds like more concise. It sounds pretty good. It comes down to something called idiomatic word pairs. And let's just scroll down and I'm going to talk to you guys about idiomatic word pairs. So there are certain pairs in English that when we hear a particular trigger, we anticipate that it's going to be followed by another trigger. And we want to hold on to those kind of idiomatic word pairs if we can. Now, that doesn't mean that we're always going to have an option that adheres to everything perfectly. But if we have that option, it's going to generally be more clear. And generally less pairs with than, right? What does your ear say? They then did less work than students, right, did who weren't required to volunteer, right? Than did students not required to volunteer. I would love it if this were just 3 words. Do you get what I'm saying? I would love it if it were just these 3. That's not an option. But adding a who were isn't the kind of clunkiness that's like offensive. Do you get what I'm saying? This isn't the kind of clunkiness that's redundant. So the other thing that I want to point out is when the SAT is really like hammering, when it hammers on redundancy, you want to ask yourself, is that redundancy like really offensive? And what would an offensive redundancy sound like? It would sound like regularly when we already have every day, right? That would be an offensive redundancy if we had like a word like that. In any case, here's my point. My point is, though it would be nice to have this shorter and just say, then did students not required to volunteer, and that's not an option, The biggest problem with D is that she made less compared with her sister. Do you see how that sounds really weird? She made less money compared with her sister. Would you ever say that? So when you guys are like asking yourself what sounds weird, you also have to ask yourself, would you ever anticipate compared with? And I know you guys are like, oh, that's clunky or that's lengthy. But sometimes on the SAT, in addition to just following the rules, and here I really do think less pairs with than, but in addition to following rules, I think the second thing that I'll say is like clunky, like it's just like you wouldn't say comparisons with compared with, and this just isn't something you'd anticipate. And so that's also something that just kind of makes it wrong. It's not how this sets us up. When we said they did less, I'm expecting a comparison where I'm expecting than. So that's kind of the bottom line. And it's weird to do a comparison with this compared with. When I have all these intervening words in between, it can make this sound actually shorter and more elegant than that, but it's kind of tricking our ears. The fact that this is so long, I think, is why some of you thought this sounded clunky. But when you get stuck, if you want to really see if something sounds right, get it down to the bare bones, and then you're going to be able to see it a little bit more clearly, hopefully, and you're going to see why this idiomatic word pair really is what's driving this answer choice. Cool, cool. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If so, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. I hope this wasn't too scary for you. Happy Halloween week, and if you're taking the SAT this weekend, good luck to you. I'll see you guys later. Ciao.